This coverage is sponsored by Richard Sounds Manchester. Call 0333 900 0086 for the best prices and expert advice for TVs, AV and Hi-Fi. Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. This is the 75-inch Sony XH90 4K LED LCD television, which is also marketed as the Bravia X900H in the USA. Now, because of the screen size, I obviously needed some help to unbox and also set up this TV, and we did it with some PPE and also social distancing in place. But what I'm going to do now is to go through the picture settings in the user menu. So if I can press the settings button on the remote control, this will bring up the quick settings menu, and then if we click on settings, and it just so happens that the user menu is on the other side, and from where I'm sitting now, it looks slightly washed out because of the V8 type LCD panel that this television employs, and also there's some reflections from my window across there, but I have to sit here because of the lighting, and also because my hair probably looks better from this angle to the camera. So we'll try to get through this as painlessly as possible. So if I can go down and click on display and sound, and then click on picture, this will bring up the picture settings in the user menu. Now the default picture mode would be standard out of the box, and then you can switch to probably the cinema mode, which is more suitable for daytime viewing in a semi-accurate manner. And then if you switch to game mode, this will allow the television to achieve the lowest input lag for those of you out there who wishes to play fast reflex games in the quickest manner without any sort of prolonged latency. And then the graphics mode would be more suitable for those of you who intend to use this TV as a monitor, albeit an extremely big monitor. And photo mode is going to be targeting probably the sRGB color space for those of you who wish to use this TV to retouch your photos. And then the custom picture mode would be the one that is most accurate out of the box to be used in a darkroom. And we shall explore all the picture settings in the menu by using this picture preset. And you can also probably see from the camera, I hope you can see from the camera, in spite of the reflections, that Sony has implemented a new graphical user interface for 2020 televisions, and this XH90 obviously has that. And if we can go down to brightness, this will bring up the various parameters that affect the contrast and the black level of this TV. So if you go down to brightness, this in the old days would be called backlight on Sony LED LCD TVs, but I think probably since 2 or 3 years ago they have renamed this to brightness. And if you lower the brightness, this will darken the picture as a whole, and then if you go back up, it will just brighten the picture. This will just basically increase the intensity of the backlight as a whole, so it will affect the entire picture. Contrast is what determines the digital white level, and then gamma would be the way the input signal is being translated to the picture on screen. So the default gamma of -2 would be targeting probably BT1886 or 2.4 gamma on their OLEDs for viewing in a dark room. If you go up higher, then it will be brightening the midtones, more suitable for viewing in a brighter environment. And then black level, this will set the video black level of this TV. If you increase it by too high, then it will increase the black level of this TV without any increase in shadow detail. But if you put it too far down, then it may crush some shadow detail. So we'll just go back to the default value of 50, and then black adjust would apply some near black gamma manipulation to increase the perceived black depth and contrast of the image, but it may also crush some shadow detail depending on the scene. Advanced contrast enhancer will try and compress the highlights and the shadows again to increase the perceived contrast, but it may not be accurate to the creator's intent because it may clip out the highlights and also the shadows. Auto local dimming, this is a full array local dimming LED LCD television, and I'm not entirely sure of the number of local dimming zones, but I will be counting it in my full review. And you have various settings ranging from off, basically turning local dimming off, but you should probably never do that in real life content because you paid quite a bit for this TV. It has local dimming, which can increase perceived contrast by controlling different zones on the screen. So if you turn it off, you're just basically wasting your money. So there are various intensities here from low, medium to high, and I think these different intensities will dictate the local dimming algorithm that is employed when the TV encounters, let's say, a bright scene or a dark scene or a bright object against a black background, to see how much haloing, how much dimming should be deployed. So we'll go back to the default setting of medium and then extended dynamic range. If you engage this for SDR, you'll be applying some sort of SDR to HDR conversion, basically upscaling SDR content to give an HDR-like effect, but it is never going to be accurate to the creator's intent. It may look pleasing to you because you like bright pictures, but realistically speaking, it will never be accurate to the creator's intent. For HDR, I believe that extended dynamic range always should be put at the highest setting to achieve the highest peak brightness that this TV is capable of, and also track the PQ curve correctly. Next, we go into the color submenu. Color would be a global control that affects all the colors, increasing the saturation and luminance. Hue will be adjusting the tint of all the colors in a global manner. Color temperature, this is a grayscale preset, and you can select from Expert 1, Expert 2, and then going back to warm, neutral, and cool, which will become progressively bluer or cooler in terms of the color temperature. If we go back to Expert 1, which is the default in this picture preset, live color, if you engage this will boost the saturation and luminance of, again, all the colors. It may produce a more pleasing effect to your eyes, but generally from measurements and from looking at the picture, the effect is generally deviating more from the artistic intent of the source signal. If we go into clarity, sharpness is edge enhancement. Reticulation is Sony's own technology that is based on some database memory bank to try and increase the perceived sharpness of the picture without introducing too much noise. And you can also fine-tune it how strong you want Sony's processing to work. And then if we go into the noise reduction parameters, random noise reduction will be targeting dark scenes to try and reduce the crawling noise or posterization that you see in dark scenes, whereas digital noise reduction will be more akin to ambient noise reduction on other sets. So it will be applying sort of a spatial filter to try and combat mosquito noise and also maybe some haloing or ringing artifacts around objects. And then if we go into motion, this TV is equipped with X motion clarity, I believe. And if you go into motion flow, which is set to custom by default, you can adjust two parameters, mainly smoothness and clearness. Smoothness will be applying motion compensated frame interpolation or MCFI, whereas clearness will be applying some backlight scanning or black frame insertion. And X motion clarity is basically a black zonal insertion, in that the company has designed this technology that can take various zones and only increase the backlight scanning in that zone and boost also the brightness in that zone so that you get less of the traditional downsides of full blacklight insertion, such as flickering and also generic dimness of the picture. So again, I think there has been some confusion online about what constitutes X motion clarity, and the thing is with X motion clarity, it's not enough to use clearness alone. You have to have a golden combination of smoothness and clearness value for X motion clarity to kick into effect. Film mode will be applying film mode deinterlacing. In the old days, there used to be the low, medium, and high settings, but since probably their X1 Ultimate chipset, it is only an on-off toggle, which can be a bit problematic if you apply it to broadcast video signal, especially in 50 Hz region. In mixed edits, you may see some stutter if you use the wrong film mode setting together with the wrong motion flow settings. Video signal, all right, I forgot to mention that, I just noticed that under the clarity submenu, on other 2020 Sony TVs that I've reviewed so far, that means the A8 or A8H and also the XH95 or X950H, there used to be a smooth gradation, basically the contouring filter on those TVs, but I think it is missing here, and maybe this is due to the X1 chipset that this TV is using. It is not using the X1 Ultimate chipset, which is more powerful in terms of the video processing. And if we go into video signal, this will allow you to manually set the output of the screen regardless of the input signal, but auto for most users would be the best settings. But if you are so inclined, you can force HDR10 or HLG or turn off HDR altogether regardless of the input signal. And HDMI video range is grayed out now because I'm not feeding any video source to this TV currently, but if I had fed a video signal, then you can select between the PC level and also the video level. And then color space, again, auto is generally the most correct setting because it will adapt the color gamut depending on the incoming info frame. But if you are so inclined, you can select BT709 for high definition content, DCI P3 or Adobe RGB for retouching photos, or BT2020 for UHD HDR content. But as always, auto would be the best setting. And under advanced color temperature, there are the basic settings. So this is a 2-point white balance control. R gain stands for red gain, G gain stands for green gain, blue gain, red bias, green bias, and blue bias. The gain controls affect the brighter portion of the image. The bias controls affect the darker portion of the image. And because I've just unboxed this TV out of the box, I only get a 10-point white balance controls. But if you download the Kalman for Bravia app, install it on this TV, and in conjunction with using the Kalman calibration software, you can unlock 2 further picture presets, basically custom for Pro 1 and custom for Pro 2, which will also expand the white balance controls to 20 points, allowing you more precision in terms of the grayscale calibration, not only manually, but most importantly, when done using AutoCal, using Kalman. So that's that. And the last thing I want to actually show you would be under the device preferences, and then if we click on about, and the device name is clearly 75XH9005, but under here I see that there's a model called Bravia VH1. I don't know what it stands for. I mean, the first thing that pops to mind is because of the weather, it's very hot one. But I mean, earlier after unboxing this TV, I was just like sweating, like an opposite version of Prince Andrews, which is why I have to actually go back in and change my
polo shirt, but VH1 stands for very hot one. Maybe some of you may be thinking about Gal Gadot as well, but I don't know why there is a different model number here to the device name there, but I would imagine that because what's so interesting about the Sony XH90 is that this is the first Sony TV that is due to support all the major features of HDMI 2.1. So it will have eARC, it will have ALLM or auto low latency mode, it will have variable refresh rate or VRR, and it will have 4K at 120 Hz support after a firmware update. Obviously, I don't know when the firmware update will land, but let's see what I can get from Sony in terms of the information about which ports will be supporting the full bandwidth of HDMI 2.1, or indeed whether the ports are the full bandwidth of 48 gigabits per second or just a slightly lower bandwidth of 40 gigabits per second. So I will be spending the next few weeks testing and reviewing this television. So if you have anything that you want us to test in particular, or if you have any questions about this TV, feel free to leave a comment in the YouTube section below. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.